The Punisher, Episode 2, Two Dead Men. So this episode I thought was pretty cool. Frank is definitely getting closer to the truth. He's mostly going on the hunt for Micro, or Leibowitz if you prefer, because basically Micro comes after him. It's like, hey, he calls him when he's at the diner. He knows where he's at. He's actually on top of the roof, which I thought that was a nice little reveal where Frank thought that he saw him, in the building across the street, so he runs around and goes up, and then he just looks across the street, and he was just standing on the roof the whole time. So I thought that was actually kind of awesome. But he was like, all right, I don't know who this guy is, but he knows who I am. He knows that I'm Frank Castle. He knows I'm still alive. I don't know what that means, but odds are, him coming at me in this way is a bit of an issue, so I need to figure out what his freaking deal is. So Frank goes to his buddy to be like, hey, I just got to double check to see, exactly what in the world is going on, who told this guy, or how he found out that I was still alive. And it turns out it was just this gait recognition thing, which was actually kind of awesome, where it follows how people walk. Everyone has a different walking sort of pattern. So I thought that was actually pretty awesome. But he goes to his buddy, and then he ends up going to Karen, where it's like, I need to figure out who this guy is. So he's able to get some intel from her, because she actually goes to her boss, and that leads to that kind of ends up combining basically the two stories that we have, because we have our investigator Dinah, where she's still trying to get her extra information on what happened in Kandar, and figure out the proof behind what went on, because apparently she saw the video that Micro actually gave to Frank. So I thought that was interesting, that she talks to her partner they're all wearing masks and stuff, and she saw the video, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think that she would have seen that. So that's another thing. Frank ends up watching the video in this episode as well. But ultimately, Karen being able to get the information from her boss, she finds out that Micro was in an article before, but it was never published because some people kind of came along and said, hey, don't really do that. And there were some fairly high up people. And so with that information, she kind of, passes that along to Frank. And it's like, all right, well, I'm going to go ahead and deal with this guy. And he ends up going to Dinah's boss, beats the crap out of him. They have a pretty decent little fight sequence going back and forth. And then he ties him up. And I love that whole sequence after the guy grabbed his gun, because I was like, oh crap, because I was like, with it being Frank, it kind of made sense that he wouldn't expect this guy to get out, because he's Frank Castle. It's like, he knows what he's doing, but he really knows what he's doing because he's dealing with this guy that has all these skills. He has, some of the same training that Frank has. So he's tied up and everything, he's getting closer, and the dude headbutts him, and then we find out that he actually got himself untied, which, now I think about it, he did tie him up using his own tie, which is absolutely nothing. It's not like he zip tied him and he got out. He used his tie, so now it kind of makes sense. The whole thing was just set up to be easy for him. So he headbutts him and grabs the gun, and basically Frank is able to use that situation where the guy is like, oh, he's in power, he thinks he's about to take me down, let me get all the extra information that I can out of him. So that's exactly what he does. And then it's like, well, the gun was empty, and he kills the guy. That ultimately ends that dude. So he is dead. Thought he'd be in there a bit longer, if I'm being totally honest, because of how Dinah's storyline was basically being blocked, because he was the senior in charge, or it's like, all that's behind you. And now he's dead, so she can kind of do whatever she wants. And I was like, oh, that totally frees her up. That was a lot faster than I was expecting it to be. So he takes him out. Frank gets a little bit of information throughout the episode pretty much on Micro. So he ends up getting hit by a car so that he can talk with his wife, go in the house, and see how everything is going on in there. But all comes down to it, he's able to get one up on Micro, and he kind of leads him all over the place. And then eventually he's able to follow him from the cemetery at the end of the episode, and that's how he ends up finding him. And then he knocks him out. So it was pretty quick. He got all the information he needed, and then he finds him by the end of the episode. And I was like, that was actually kind of cool. Because Frank isn't really the investigative type of person, but he was doing his research in this episode. So it was kind of cool to see that side of his character, where he's, doing the meticulous work, because it's not just find this guy and kill him. It was like, all right, I have to go to Karen because I need to see if she can get some extra information that I can't get to. I got to bring in my buddy. By the end of the episode, he brings him in as his support. So it was a lot of little things where it was like he has to go to the people out, go to things outside of himself in order to succeed in this mission and figure out who in the world is following me. Why does this guy matter? Why does he care about me? So, he's going to start getting his answers in the next episode, because of course he knocked the dude out, but he was learning a little more as he went through, and it's like, okay, now I understand why he said, I wasn't the only ghost in town, because they're both legally supposed to be dead men. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm definitely looking forward to this next episode, and once they get past Frank probably beating the guy up maybe a little bit more, but get to some of the answers and why why this stuff matters to Micro, because for him it was like, all right, well, he was supposed to have been dead a year ago. With Frank, it was like they were trying to take him down forever, with him, leaving his unit. So it just makes me wonder what the deal is with Micro. Like, why would he care about Frank? That sort of thing. So looking forward to some answers there as far as, what Micro expects to get out of this, why he's helping Frank out, how that may or may not help him reveal to his family the fact that he's actually still alive. So I feel like that's kind of why he's going towards Frank. It's like, all right, he's done great being this dead guy and being off the grid. I can utilize him, help him get some answers. He'll help me get some more answers. We get like all the proof that we need in the world, and then who knows what happens with Frank, but at least I can go back to my family and have my name cleared and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that in the next episode. But all in all, this is definitely a good one. This was like I mentioned in my first review, this I would say was the slower paced episode. It had like the moment in the very beginning, with Frank like running and stuff, and finding out that Micro was just standing on the building he was in the whole time. And so we had that, and then of course the fight sequence at the end of the episode. But for the most part, it was definitely dialogue, and I thought it was good dialogue because we're finding out about this new character. It's like, I mean, I knew he was going to end up being his ally just because of the comics and like the trailers and stuff, so I knew how it was going to end up. But watching it was still entertaining because it's like, all right, we find out that he even has a family, because I didn't think that was going to be the case. And then we see him like watching his family early on in the episode, and I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And then they talk about how he left, and I just thought, oh, he left. And then when Frank goes to talk to his wife, she says that he actually died. And I was like, oh, he really didn't just take off from their family. He legitimately, he was killed. So it's like, all right, well, what in the world is going on? And she mentions how she believes that what he did was really brave, but also kind of stupid and selfish. And I have to wonder if she knows that he's actually alive, because they have the scene where she like looks at the picture, and I thought that was one of those random things where like people talk to the screens, and then like the person gets that weird sense like, man, I feel like someone was talking to me, so they always look at the camera. But some of the dialogue she said, it was like, I don't know, maybe she knows that he's alive, because the way they talk about it, like even in the beginning when she was talking to her kids, it didn't seem like, oh, he's dead. It was like, oh, he left. So I thought that was really interesting. It was kind of hard to tell with the way they did the dialogue. That may have been on purpose, but I was like, I feel like they know, like even the kids almost, I feel like they kind of know that he's still alive, because like I said, the first thing she said was, oh, well, your dad left, not your dad died. It was like he left, a year ago. And I was just like, okay, so he took off from his family and now he's in hiding, and maybe he's just crazy, or whatever the case is, because I know nothing about the character. And then it was like, oh, well, he's dead, and he was supposed to have been killed, resisting arrest or something like that. I was like, all right, so he's got, like the fake death, and the family assumes that he's dead and stuff. And then, like I said, I thought about it, excuse me, towards the end of the episode, like I was just kind of going back on, Michael's character and his family. And I was like, yeah, she said all that stuff to Frank about him being dead and stuff, but that, the selfish, but also, like, I don't know if I would hug him or slap him. It was like, I'm proud of what he did, and then sometimes I'm angry at him. It's like, she knows, I like, based off of that and the way that she was talking to her kids, I'm like, I think she knows that he's alive, and they just have to hide and say like, oh, he died, and, that's pretty much it. And of course, Frank's a stranger, so it's just like, he's dead, because that's how it's supposed to be to the public. But I think she knows that her husband is still alive based on the dialogue with her kids, where it's like, oh, well, he left a year ago and stuff. And it's like, no, you wouldn't just say, oh, he left a year ago. You'd be like, well, your father died or something like that. Like, you wouldn't, the way they were talking about it, it wouldn't be like that. It wouldn't just be like, oh, well, he left. You don't say that when somebody dies, unless you just like don't care about them at all. So it's like, that's very interesting. Like, I don't know. But she also cried about it, which, that doesn't mean that he's dead. That could just mean I may never see him again, because I don't know. So he's kind of dead to the family, but I know somewhere he's out there. So of course you could still cry about that, because it hurts. So I was just like, I can't tell 100%, but I feel like she knows that he's alive. And I feel like, so do the kids, based on the dialogue at least. But I thought that was kind of cool. And I don't know if, I could totally be wrong and have been looking too far into the dialogue, but I felt like the words that she said to her kids and the way they were talking about him being gone, and then that combined with, basically it was almost like a complete 180 talking about it to Frank. It was like, I feel like she knows that he's alive. And, like I said, looking into the camera thing, I thought was just like, the random trope of the character looking into the camera as the person speaks to them. But now it's like, maybe she did know that he was alive. Maybe, maybe she's in on it. She just can't find him. She doesn't know where, so it has to be, oh, well, he's dead to everyone else. So, I don't know. Could be wrong. That was just a theory I wanted to throw out because I noticed that as I was like going through it, I started to look back on it like, huh, with him being like officially dead, the interaction with the kids was like way nicer. Like, it got sad a little bit, but like I said, the dialogue in there with him, like, oh, he left a year ago, is very different than, oh, he died. You know, something like that. So that's just my theory based on how the dialogue and the interactions played out, based on, you know, who she was speaking to versus, you know, Frank coming in and it's like just this random dude. But definitely enjoyed the episode. Like I said, this was one of the slower paced ones, but I enjoyed it. I still feel like things are, you know, really building up. So looking forward to where we're headed. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And I definitely want to know where you guys think things are headed for Frank and Micro officially teaming up, what that's going to lead to as far as, you know, answers to their questions, what's going on with Micro, and what is Micro's goal. I would love to know your theories on what his true goal is as far as, you know, bringing Frank in. And I assume, like I said, my theory is Frank's just able to do it, so it's like, well, why not get this guy, because he's good at all the muscle work and he's fairly good at hiding out and all that stuff too. He knows some of the technical things, so utilize him, get both of us free. And I feel like that's where it's headed, but that's just my theory. So I would love to know your theory on that. And of course, what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.